Well, it's Sunday the 2nd of July. This is episode 2322 of 301 Permanently Moved.online, a personal podcast 301 seconds in length, written, recorded and edited by me, at the JMO. Last week, the UK's Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, Lucy Fraser, was interviewed by Jimmy McLaughlin on Jimmy's Jobs for the Future. As of the time of this recording, the video only has 529 views, and 2 of them are mine. If you're in the UK and work in a creative industry, you should watch it too, preferably from between fingers or behind the sofa. For those of you who can't bring themselves to suffer through it, however, here's the Pop Bitch newsletter's review of the interview. Lucy Fraser, Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, stepped on pretty much every possible landmine as a guest on Jimmy's Jobs of the Future podcast today. The government's head of the creative industries hasn't used ChatGPT, hasn't experienced VR, struggled to name a single comedian, doesn't read books, doesn't have a favourite fashion designer, has only this week joined Instagram, hasn't ever worked in creative industries, though she tried to spin her career as a commercial law barrister as creative, and hasn't taken a magazine since Whizzer and Chips. But good news for gamers, the minister, holding the UK's entertainment industry in her hand, does have a favourite game. 1972 Atari hit, Pong. Watching this interview play out is such a crazy experience. I had to watch it twice. The fact that this person is in charge of our culture and media industry is insane. Here's the thing. Creative industries are fast-moving and dynamic, fractilinear in detail and their speed of change. Even if you follow things closely, you can still be surprised. And given that Fraser hasn't played a video game since Pong, perhaps she would like to know the 2 things I learned this week that surprised me. Firstly, due to poorly redacted documents submitted as part of the FTC Activision Microsoft antitrust hearings, it comes to light that during 2021, 1 million PlayStation owners played Call of Duty and nothing else. 6 million PlayStation owners also spent more than 70% of their gaming time just playing Call of Duty. I made an episode, 2108, about the release of Call of Duty Black Ops, wondering why some of the issues surrounding its release weren't in the proper news. I also observed that the Call of Duty franchise has generated more revenue than the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the box office, and double that of the cumulative box office for Star Wars. Yet the Marvel franchise is way more visible in mainstream culture than Call of Duty. I direct you to a similar sentiment expressed recently on 301 in episode 2318 with the release of the new Zelda game. The same legal documents also provide us with another figure from Sony. The average Call of Duty player spends over 100 hours a year playing the game. Or, given the players' numbers and averages, 68,493 years of collective playtime in one game in 2021. The other surprising statistic I learnt this week was that the hotly anticipated RPG Baldur's Gate 3 has more dialogue than 3 times the word count of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and has 174 hours of animated cinematic, which is more than twice the length of every season of Game of Thrones combined. Or, to put it another way, there's more cinematic in Baldur's Gate than the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, including all the Disney Plus TV shows, put together. All made and created with a budget of less than a single Marvel movie. With an expected minimum of 100 hours of gameplay, this can be all yours for just 60 quid or 60p an hour. What a bargain. Both of these stats surprised me, and I would hope be a surprise to Fraser too, but I'm not sure they would. Like Fraser, the mainstream media doesn't care for video games either. They seem adamant to maintain the delusion that they are marginal cultural objects. As a result, they ignore a massive force that is shaping our cultural grammars and media landscape. The fact that the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport doesn't know anything about culture, media and sport is symptomatic of a much wider sickness afflicting the UK. The elite in this country, defined by a set of shared interests that cut across class, status and occupation, have undergone the total delamination from the rest of society and reality. It's obvious and not controversial to say that rich people live in a bubble, but it's the wrong metaphor. Delamination is better. The peeling away or detachment of layers from a whole. You just have to look at the UK's elite during the Corbyn era or Brexit to see this delamination in action. I said back in episode 2309 that our politicians are haunting an empty idea of empire, but the problem is much wider. Rishi Sunak, our Prime Minister, is worth £730 million and is probably the UK's most delaminated man. A vast swathe of the media and political class, the people that actually run the country, are totally unmoored from reality. Social society is crumbling, and as a class, they are floating off, sliding around over and across the tumbling rubble. The biggest problem facing our society is that the elite aren't even aware that they have no idea what they're talking about, or what the hell is going on?